If you grew up in the 80s or 90s, your childhood home was probably wrapped in features that barely exist today. Think neon shag carpets, wood-paneled basements, and rotary phones stretching from wall to wall. These weren't just quirks. They were the heart of American family life, fueled by catalog culture and a booming love for modern design. But behind all that charm was a countdown. Economic shifts, new tech, and a wave of safety scares swept these icons away. So why did the comforts we took for granted disappear so fast? And would today's kids even recognize a wood-paneled rec room or recoil at the strange truth of bathroom carpet? Let's dig into the 10 childhood home features that have truly faded into history. Descend the stairs, and suddenly you're in another world. A world wrapped in wood paneling, the kind that turned basements into cozy dens or mysterious caves, depending on the lighting and your age. From the early 1970s through the mid-1980s, faux wood panels covered walls in millions of American homes. These weren't solid oak or walnut, but thin sheets stamped with wood grain, sold by the bundle in every Sears or JCPenney catalog. By 1975, a single panel could cost less than dinner for four, and the promise was irresistible: a finished basement, fast, and on a budget. Catalogs called it modern warmth, but for kids, it was the backdrop to Atari marathons, sleepovers, and the muffled thump of a stereo 2 floors up. The panels hid concrete walls and made even the gloomiest basement feel like a secret clubhouse. Parents loved how easy it was to install. A weekend, a few nails, and suddenly the house had a rec room. According to a 1977 JCPenney ad, you could transform any space into a plush retreat with our Easy Care wall panels. The downside? Every scuff, dent, or water stain told its own story. By the late 80s, what once felt inviting now looked dated and dark. As drywall and bright paint took over, the wood-paneled basement faded into memory, remembered mostly in family photos and the faint scent of musty carpet. Would a kid today even recognize a room like that? Or just wonder why the walls looked like a bowling alley? For a generation, though, those paneled walls were the backdrop for growing up. Equal parts comfort, cringe, and nostalgia. Step onto the thick, tangled surface of shag carpeting, and you're instantly transported to a time when the floor itself was a playground. In the mid-1970s, Montgomery Ward catalogs devoted entire spreads to these wild, synthetic marvels, advertising neon orange, avocado green, and even electric blue as the height of home fashion. Plush pile you could get lost in, they promised. For kids, shag carpet was a sensory adventure, soft enough for marathon cartoon sessions, deep enough to hide action figures, and bold enough to turn any living room into a disco. The longer the fiber, the more luxurious it felt, at least until the vacuum cleaner jammed or the dog tracked in mud. Retail buyers like Phyllis Duncan at JCPenney's 1977 design team pushed for ever bolder color choices, battling for catalog space with lines like Sunburst Citrus and Lime Fizz. Synthetic fibers made these colors possible and affordable, at a time when every catalog wanted to outshine the competition. Advertisements called it carefree living, but the reality was more complicated. Shag carpet trapped every crumb, every bit of dust, and every secret dropped snack, leaving parents to wonder if anything lurking in the pile would ever come out. By the late 1980s, allergy warnings and a new love of hardwood floors began to push Shag out of the spotlight. Critics called it a dust trap, impossible to clean, and hopelessly dated. Yet for a generation, the feel of Shag underfoot meant comfort, color, and a little bit of chaos. Would today's kids even know what to do with carpet you could lose your keys in? For those who grew up with it, the memory is as bright as the carpet itself. Hanging on the kitchen wall, the rotary phone was more than just a gadget. It was a family command center. The coiled cord, stretched to its limit, could snake from the phone nook around the corner and halfway down the hallway if you pulled hard enough. In the late 1970s and early 80s, Sears and Bell system ads promised these phones would last for years, offering our avocado green, canary yellow, and classic beige to match every kitchen's palette. The real feature wasn't the dial, it was the cord. At 5 and even 25 feet, it let kids drag the handset into a closet for a hushed conversation, or wrap themselves in knots trying to keep a secret from siblings eavesdropping on the other extension. Family etiquette revolved around this phone. Parents kept a watchful ear on every ring, and the weekly ritual of untangling the cord became a minor household event. Miss a call, and you might miss your chance to talk to a friend before dinner. But the phone wasn't just for kids. Moms called in recipes from neighbors, dads checked in from work, and the whole house seemed to pause when the bell rang. Racing to answer before anyone else was a daily sport, often ending with someone tripping over the cord or shouting, "Hang up! I've got it!" Everything changed in 1984, when the breakup of AT&T, known as the Bell system, opened the floodgates for new phone technology. Suddenly, cordless models appeared in catalogs and on TV, promising freedom from the wall and the tyranny of the curly cord. Within a few years, rotary phones faded to the background, outpaced by push buttons and then by wireless handsets. Today, the idea of being leashed to a wall just to make a call feels almost prehistoric. Imagine explaining to a teenager why you needed 30 feet of cord just to whisper about your crush. For those who grew up with it, the sound of the rotary dial and the weight of the handset are woven into the memory of home. A fixture now mostly found in thrift stores or as a prop in retro TV shows. In the center of the living room, the console TV reigned, a 6-foot-long monument to family entertainment and American design excess. These weren't just televisions, they were furniture, built into massive wood cabinets that anchored the entire room. Montgomery Ward's 1982 catalog devoted full pages to these behemoths, advertising walnut veneered units with sliding doors, cubbies for VHS tapes, and shelves for the remote control. Some even came with matching end tables, ensuring everything in the room bowed to the television's presence. For kids, the console TV was both throne and campfire. On Sunday mornings, siblings crowded in front of the screen, adjusting rabbit ear antennas and arguing over who got to turn the chunky knob. The TV's top surface was sacred territory, reserved for framed school portraits, a vase of plastic flowers, or the family's best doily. When a favorite cartoon came on, the whole family gathered on shag carpet, snacks in hand, eyes fixed on the glowing glass. The weight of these sets was legendary. Moving day meant recruiting neighbors or risking a hernia. Some units tipped the scales at over 200 pounds. Inside, the TV's guts filled most of the cabinet, leaving just enough room for a few prized VHS tapes or a stack of TV guides. The built-in speaker grills, often covered in gold mesh, promised theater sound, but mostly delivered muffled dialogue and the occasional buzz from a loose wire. By the late 1980s, slimmer screens and minimalist tastes started to make these wooden giants look out of place. The rise of wall-mounted TVs and tiny remotes spelled the end for console cabinets. Today's kids might wonder why a TV needed its own furniture, or why anyone would want to hide electronics behind sliding doors. But for a generation, the console TV was the heart of the home, a gathering point for family, friends, and every big moment broadcast in living color. Slide open the lid of a stereo cabinet, and the room transforms. In the late 1970s and early 80s, these massive sound systems were the pride of suburban living rooms, sometimes stretching 6 feet wide, weighing over 200 pounds, and promising what Zenith called living sound. Every major catalog, Sears, JCPenney, Montgomery Ward, devoted glossy pages to these wooden monuments. Inside, a turntable sat under smoked glass, flanked by built-in speakers and a stack of dials that looked like airplane controls. Some cabinets could store over 200 LPs, their spines lined up like a record store in miniature. For Ramilbys, weekend mornings meant ritual, flipping through album covers, negotiating which record to play, and gently dropping the needle while everyone settled onto the couch. Parents warned kids not to touch the equalizer, but the real draw was the tactile magic, sliding the heavy lid, watching the platter spin, feeling bass thump through the floor. Friends gathered for listening parties, trading stories about which band sounded best on the big speakers. The stereo wasn't just for music. It set the mood for every holiday, birthday, or lazy Sunday spent sprawled on shag carpet. Advertising in 1977 promised concert hall clarity and furniture quality cabinetry. In reality, the sound sometimes rattled the walls and sent complaints up the stairs. But that was part of the experience. The stereo cabinet turned music into a shared event, filling every corner with sound and family noise. By the mid-90s, these giants were replaced by compact CD players and, eventually, digital files. Today, the idea of dedicating half a wall to music equipment feels almost unimaginable. Yet for a generation, the stereo cabinet was the heartbeat of the house, a stage for every soundtrack of growing up. Look up, and you will remember the ceiling that quietly hovered over every childhood living room, hallway, and bedroom, the popcorn ceiling. Bumpy, bright white, and oddly satisfying to touch, this texture was everywhere from the late 1960s into the early 90s. Builders praised it as a miracle finish. It hid every flaw, muffled sound, and went up fast with a spray gun. Catalogs and home magazines called it modern texture, and for a while, nobody questioned the little white peaks above their heads. But beneath the surface, trouble was brewing. In the rush to build affordable, stylish homes, manufacturers blended asbestos into many popcorn ceiling mixes. The tiny fibers gave the coating strength and fire resistance, but they also posed a hidden danger. By 1977, the Consumer Product Safety Commission stepped in, banning asbestos from patching compounds and textured ceiling paints. The move came after mounting evidence linked asbestos dust to lung disease and cancer. Yet because builders were allowed to use up existing stock, millions of homes received asbestos-laden ceilings into the late 1970s. As news stories spread and lawsuits piled up, a new industry was born, almost overnight: asbestos removal specialists. Homeowners, alarmed by headlines and health warnings, hired crews in hazmat suits to scrape away the popcorn, sometimes at great expense, sometimes doing it themselves with little more than a garden sprayer and a putty knife. By the late 1980s, the popcorn ceiling had gone from modern must-have to a symbol of hidden risk. EPA guidelines, local ordinances, and a wave of class action lawsuits pushed the trend out of favor. Today, the sight of a popcorn ceiling is less likely to spark nostalgia and more likely to raise questions about what is lurking above the drywall. For a generation, the ceiling that once promised comfort and quiet became a cautionary tale, reminding everyone that not every home trend ages well. Float into a bedroom from the late 1980s, and you might hear the gentle slosh of a waterbed, America's most notorious sleep experiment. Invented by Charlie Hall in 1968 and patented just 3 years later, the waterbed promised futuristic comfort and a touch of California cool. By 1987, waterbeds were a $2 billion business, filling up nearly a quarter of all new mattresses sold. Catalogs and TV ads showed couples lounging on vinyl waves, touting claims of better backs and deeper sleep. But reality had other plans. Leaks were legendary. One pinhole could turn a quiet night into a flood drill, and insurance companies took notice. By the mid-80s, apartment leases spelled out no waterbeds, and homeowners faced higher premiums or outright bans. Legal battles raged, with Hall's patent challenged by rivals and copycats crowding the market. Lawsuits over water damage stacked up, and by 2000, waterbeds made up less than 5% of bed sales. For a generation, the waterbed was both a status symbol and a punchline, a reminder that not every home trend stays afloat. Press a button in the hallway, and the whole house crackled to life, at least in theory. Intercom systems swept through new homes between 1978 and 1982, promising effortless communication from kitchen to bedroom to garage. In practice, most kids used the intercom as a private prank line, sending spooky whispers or calling their siblings to imaginary emergencies. Manufacturers like M&S Systems poured $22 million into TV and magazine ads, pitching these gadgets as the future of family life. But static, stuck buttons, and the rise of cordless phones turned intercoms into expensive wall ornaments almost overnight. Meanwhile, every coffee table, sideboard, and bathroom counter seemed to host a decorative ashtray, sometimes crystal, sometimes shaped like a seashell, always ready for guests. Even non-smokers took pride in a well-chosen ashtray, a sign of hospitality drilled into the culture by Better Homes and Gardens in the mid-70s. By 1993, the EPA officially classified secondhand smoke as a carcinogen, and the ashtray's reign ended almost instantly. Today, kids might not recognize the purpose of a wall intercom or believe that ashtrays once counted as home decor. Step into a bathroom from the late 1970s, and you might find yourself standing ankle-deep in wall-to-wall carpet. Yes, even around the toilet and tub. Catalogs from Sears and Montgomery Ward called it plush comfort for your feet, and entire bathroom sets came in matching shades of peach, powder blue, or harvest gold. For a while, this was the ultimate upgrade: soft underfoot, warm on chilly mornings, and a sign that your family had made it. But the dream faded fast. By the late 1980s, warnings from the Consumer Product Safety Commission and a string of news segments, like ABC's 2020 in 1989, spotlighted the hidden dangers lurking in those fibers. Mold, mildew, and bacteria flourished in damp corners, turning luxury into a laboratory experiment gone wrong. Homeowners scrambled for removal guides and DIY magazines filled with step-by-step carpet extraction tips. By the mid-1990s, almost no new homes featured carpeted bathrooms, not because of a formal ban, but because the risks were just too obvious. Today, the idea seems almost unthinkable. Would a kid now even believe you if you said your childhood bathroom had a full carpet? For many, it's the ultimate cringe memory, a final reminder that not every home trend was meant to last. According to a 1984 Sears catalog, wood paneling, shag carpets, and built-in TV consoles once defined the look and feel of American homes. These features, shaped by affordability, suburban growth, and changing technology, faded as new regulations, materials, and tastes took over. The 1977 Consumer Product Safety Commission ban on asbestos in popcorn ceilings and the 1993 EPA report on secondhand smoke each marked turning points for what was considered safe and stylish. Yet some questions remain, such as why bathroom carpet lingered into the 1990s despite well-publicized mold risks, or what drove waterbeds to become a $2 billion fad before disappearing almost overnight. Today, open floor plans, minimalist design, and health codes shape our living spaces. But as the archival photos and catalogs show, these vanished features weren't just odd trends. They were the backdrop of a generation's childhood. While the materials have faded, the memories remain, preserved in family albums and the pages of old catalogs.